the Art and Industry of Business and Living podcast, discussing conscious choices around business, money, life and living, and creating a greater future for you and the planet. Hi everybody, welcome to the Art and Industry of Business and Living. Are you living today? I've actually just been listening to this class that Dr. Dane here did in Brazil. It's called Being You. It's no prerequisite, so it would be available for you to buy. It's probably up on the Access Consciousness website. Brilliant class though. And I love the way Dr. Dane, he talks about so many different tools. And even though I've been, using Access Consciousness tools for 18 years now, the way he talks about things still ping me. And one of the things I was listening to today as I was getting some body work, because my body's been a bit like, what's going on? What do we need to change? And I was listening to him and he was talking about bodies. And he was talking about living. And he was talking about, really choosing to live with, everything. And he was talking about how people, go, oh, I should do this. I should do that. I should take these supplements. I should do that. I blah, 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 which is so this reality. Oh yeah, maybe it's a whole bunch of lies of this reality. And he was saying, you want to change your body. You want to, be in communion with your body. One thing, get happy. I was like, I love it. And we actually have some t-shirts available on the happinessisjustachoice.com website. And they are from years ago when I was in New Zealand with Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness. He was getting cranky at me for something. I can't remember what it was, just whatever. Anyway, he was yelling and he goes, you need to get happy. And then he finishes it with, and stay there. And I was like, that's perfect. And we ended up putting it on a t-shirt. So that's how that design came out. Get happy and stay there. And I love wearing that t-shirt, especially when I travel on planes, because people are like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, give it a shot. Let's see if we can do it. So today I have another Joy Business Facilitator, a JCF, as we like to call them. And I'm so sorry, Doris, I'm going to do this again. You need to say your last name. So welcome, Doris. Schachenhofer. I can say it once you say it. It's just the initial, Schachenhofer. Now I'm going to say it over and over again. Be like, that's the whole podcast, 20 minutes of Schachenhofer. And it might sound weird to me, but not to you. So welcome. And I'm randomly doing some podcasts with some of the Platinum JCFs, the courageous who go out in the world and facilitate the Business Done Different 3-day class. And you've just done one recently, correct?
Yes, I did. And
how was that for you?
It was so beautiful, and it showed me how different this perspective is, the Business Done Different, the idea of having joy in business. And I had one woman in this class that had never heard about the tools before that we are using and that we're working with and creating with. And she had all these wow moments. And one time she said, I don't need to have expectations. And then this was a moment for me again where I'm like, when you talk about it, somehow you work with it and you're creating from the space of having no expectations or looking, where do I have expectations? But she was like, I've never heard this. I've never heard that I could not have expectations, or if people put this on me, that I don't have to do anything with it. So it was beautiful. And
do you want to explain a little bit more to the listeners about that? So from anyone out there who's listening going, I don't get it either, because it's true. It's like we use these tools all the time. And I mean, we talk about being in question, and then you actually start becoming the question, So it's the same thing with the expectations. So do you want to explain that a little bit more to people out there listening about what it is that you're talking about?
So, like with expectations, we limit ourselves, and also people put it on us, what they expect from us, but it doesn't mean that it's something that I'm willing or can or able to deliver. So it's a place where I put on another person a projection, an expectation, and wait that they are doing what I expect from them. And taking this away and seeing that this most of the time is not grading opens up something really new. I had a conversation with a client yesterday where she said she gets that her husband is controlling her in a way. She's doing a business and he doesn't like it, so he doesn't want her to talk about it, and he's around. And it was quite interesting to look at this. And she said, and then I asked him to stop to control me. And then we looked at it, and for herself, it showed up that there is an expectation of him to her, and also the other way around, from her to him, that he would stop it. And then the question is, does it really work? Either or is there another possibility to ask, what else could I choose here? What else could I be here? And what is the fear? What is it you have fear about, that you go into expectation instead of choosing whatever works for you and what grades greater,
I would change that up slightly and not talk about fear. I'd be talking about, what are you aware of? It's like, what are you trying to manipulate here? Because, with that too, it's like, what if we were more in allowance of ourselves and of others? So one of the processes that we run in Access Consciousness, and definitely with Business Done Different, and it's right at the beginning of the 3-day manual, actually. It's like, POC and Potting, which is the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. You can find out more about it at theclearingstatement.com. And all the projections. So right now, let's do this with yourself, with every project that you're involved in. It's like, even with this podcast, with your business, with everything, all the expectations, projections, judgments, separations and rejections that you have of you, your business, your projects, your money flows, your partner, anyone and anything, destroy and uncreate it, times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and pot, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. Because if you have expectations, the only thing it's going to do is create limitation. So I love that too, because the thing is, especially in business as well, people have expectations in business. You expect something of your employees, rather than, what would it be like if you didn't expect something of your employees? You actually ask them questions and be willing to see what they're willing to contribute. That's the thing that I see trips so many people up, is when they expect something of someone else, and it's like that's not what they're great at. That's not their capacity, or that's not what they desire to deliver. And yet when you expect it, then it's like expectation will always lead to disappointment, rather than, if you're an allowance, you will receive more. More allowance is more receiving. That simple.
And I love that my business team is growing, and
that's awesome.
Yes, totally. I just had a conversation this week with my new coordinator, and it was really the time to have someone step into that, and also receiving the contribution in another person to grow, and to have someone also to have a conversation with, to be in question that I can co-create with. And I have, my team is now, there are 3 women, and it's always a process. And I've learned this with you and all the conversations we have with Joy of Business and with the Access Consciousness tools, that even if they work with me and co-create with me, it doesn't mean, that they always need to do what I think they should do. It's always looking at, okay, who is great in what, and where can we expand, and where is perhaps something missing, and we on one point is required to ask for another person. This is really a great muscle to build, to not say, you work for me and now you have to do everything, or I would do everything somehow, it's my business. So to putting it on other people and having this play, having these conversations, having the allowance for it, and not going into wrongness for anything is...
I love that. No expectations, no projections, and you're actually empowering your staff to say, hey, what are you great at? What is it that you would like to be involved in? What is it that you would like to play with, to create?
Yeah. And to have this honesty and open conversations where you can say, hey, let's start with this, but if it really doesn't work for you, tell me. And you always also get a sense if things doesn't work for people, and I also get this with myself, I will try and do it and think I should do it. But on one point, the others also got it on one point. And you will just take more time or always push it. And then to say, okay, who else can we add here? What else can we add here to make it work and have the expansion and generation that is possible?
So you're also based in Vienna, Austria, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
cool. But you're also doing classes all over the place? Like, where are you doing classes? All over Europe?
The next one is actually in Vienna, and I'm really excited about it at the end of this month. And I'm planning one in Miami in America. And
nice.
and again, I will just have a conversation with a wonderful lady after our conversation. Let's see where it leads. And at the end of the year, I've scheduled one again in Austria, in Salzburg. And I'm inviting people to look at this and see if where else do you want to invite any of the 12 business facilitators to have these conversations, because they're really, really different and there are no prereqs to it. Everyone can join. And if it's entrepreneurs, people that are business owners, but also the beauty of the last class I had is on one point a person said, oh, this is a lot about being you. And we have talked about so many different topics. It was not only about business. We talked about the creation of any area of your life. And yes, this is also what I love, that people get this out of our conversations, because it is about the creation of your life. Yeah. And you always say your business is your life is your business, and you don't need to be self-employed to have a business.
Exactly. It's like you can just wake up in the morning, and if you've got blood running through your veins, you're in business, because creating your life is about being in business. So yeah, it does have a lot to do with being. It's got, I mean, yeah. And life is like, oh my goodness, I'm so freaking grateful at the moment. I'm home for 2 weeks and I have this amazing, big, beautiful house across the road from the beach, so you can hear the sound of the ocean all the time. It's so lovely and nurturing. And yet I get to travel all over the world doing a bunch of stuff. And it's like, how does it get any better than this? Like, what else is possible? So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Doris, is you've just done the Business Done Different class, but we were sort of picking some topics that the JCFs, found interesting in whatever way they did. So what's one of the topics in the Business Done Different manual that was of interest to you?
I'm interested for myself, and I love the topic, you cannot create from a lie. And I looked at it this morning before we started the conversation. A lot of times I would also say that people think there is something bad going on, a lie that is something around being bad. But then I also saw how much are we creating from the lie of not being good enough, not being great enough, like hiding this. Mm-hmm. And then you cannot really use everything you have to advantage. For example, with business, if you think you're not good enough in business, or you don't know, and therefore you cannot start a business, it might be a lie, because we think we need to have it figured out, or there are a lot of people out there that have all these strategies of how you do business, what is required. And I would not have started my business with that, because this would bring me to, I don't have this, I cannot do it. And the invitation here is to just start and see where it leads you and what opens up, and also ask for people with whom you can have conversation with that empower you to know what you know and use it. So create from this place of a lie is a big thing. And again, with all the clients I have and the conversations I get to have in the last class, there was a lot of things, where we tell ourselves something, and then we have this wonderful tool of something that is light for you is true for you, and something that is really heavy for you and contracts you is a lie. So how much have we defined this energy of lie as something light or something true that it isn't? And then we run around with making things real and true that just aren't. And it's so beautiful to see when you ask people a question and they go into, oh, that's not light. So,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, when you take it even to like, what have you learned? Like you said, you wouldn't have started your business if you brought into pretty much what we were talking about before, like the expectations and the projections that this reality, your city, your country, your culture, your family, your friends. Oh yeah, are they really friends? Haha. Have a view of like, well, Doris, you can't do that, or blah blah blah. And it's like, rather than the empowerment encouraging you. So one of the processes that we run too, one of my favorite questions is whose lies are, so let's do it like this. Whose lies are you using to create the reality you are choosing? Reality and business you are choosing, and everything that is times a godzillion. We destroy and uncreate it.
Yes.
All right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys and beyond. So you can even just like put this on a loop and start running this, because what if you actually started to find out what it was like to find out what your reality is? What's your financial reality? What's your business reality? What's your creative reality? And how many other people's lies have you been buying into to create your financial reality? I mean, even if you look at, money, it's like whose lies and how many lies are you using to avoid the money you could be having? And everything at that times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it. Wow. All right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all night, shorts, boys and beyonds.
And with traveling the world and going to these different places, as you said, there are a lot of things also with culture where we so buy into that, and we so and then we say, but my culture, but wherever you live, and there is so many different things on different places on this planet, and then really taking this away and looking behind it and seeing, okay, cool. It might be from the outside what's going on and what is truly possible if I don't think about it and need to have it figured out and really ask about what do I know about business? What is here truly possible? Who can I invite here? And starting to use the tools that it can open up. And not, this is the beauty here as well, is we don't figure it out and then we start asking questions without knowing maybe where it leads, but with the openness of receiving something that has never been before, or that I have not considered possible for me, or possible for me where I live or with the people I'm surrounded with. And there will always people show up that are interested, curious, or are really grateful for you starting a different conversation or starting a business. So this was a big gift for me to see in the last class, where people went into things they just grew up with, and we could open it up and say, okay, but what do you know here? What are you aware of? And with the tools you have now and all your conversations we are having here, so what different choice could you make? What tools could you start using every day, and just not control it and go with it for a while and see what happens?
Yeah, and I love, you touched on something there too, which I just like to reiterate, is the gratitude. Because it's like, if you're having gratitude for what shows up, it's like you can create more. And, I get it that sometimes when I first heard a lot of these tools, I was like, what the hell? And I was like, it seemed too easy. But can I tell you, my life, and I know your life too, Doris, and so many people, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people around the world, their life has gotten so much easier using Access Consciousness tools. And it's so much of it is about empowering yourself to know that you know. So if you weren't buying into the lies of this reality, the lies of money, the lies of business, the lies of relationship, the lies of sex, the lies of bodies, the lies of living so that you can have a life and pay taxes and then you die, if you could actually create something different, it's like, what would that be for you? And that's where you really have to start, being onto yourself, of like, really have to start asking questions, and asking the questions like that, like whose lies and what lies are you using to avoid, and put anything in there. Like we use the process of whose lies and what lies are you using to avoid the money you could be having. But you can put anything in there to avoid the happiness, to avoid the business, to, avoid the elegance, to avoid the adventure. Like whose lies and what lies are you using to avoid the adventure you could be having? the adventure of living you could be having, and everything that that is, times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Wow. Let me run that one again. Whose lies and what lies are you using to avoid the adventure of living that you could be having and choosing, and everything that that is, times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Because the only things that lies create is the limitations. And every single time you create, a different point of view, a judgment, you create a limitation upon yourself. What if you had no more limitations? No more limitations. None.
Yeah.
And that was the lie that you're all holding on to, is that you have to have limitations. I mean, there's always that, you've got to have the bad to have the good, or yin and yang. And it's like, what if that was absolute bullshit? What if you could just have ease with everything that you chose in each and every day? That's what I'm going for.
Yeah. This is beautiful that you bring it up, because we talked about it. So how much is the conversation here? You need to fall deep to rise high, And it's like, right. No, you said, no, I don't like to
no, thank you. No, thanks.
and still I it's something that is so intense here, where people are going to that, but then I could get a lot out of it. And this is where the lessons are, where the lessons of life are. And what if we can just rise? And it doesn't mean that life is always like, easy, but you can choose ease with it, whatever the challenge that comes along, and invite yourself that you don't need to fall deep to rise high.
No. Yeah. So everywhere that you've been like implanted or explanted with that point of view that you have to, how do you say it, fall deep to rise high. In Australia, we have something called the tall poppy syndrome, which I know is in a few different places, that if you grow really fast and really quick, then they'll chop your head off because you didn't show that you did it, with that trauma and drama. So everything that is, and everywhere that you're buying into that as your reality, and all the lies that you've brought with it, will you please, 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 please destroy and uncreate it. Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And let's do this. Whose lies and what lies are you using to create the lie that it's not fun to change all of your limitations are you choosing? Because how many of you have decided that you have to keep some of your limitations because you work damn hard on those limitations? You spent your whole life buying into those lies and making them real. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They're not real. So everything that is, times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. Okay, let me run that one more time. Whose lies and what lies are you using to create the lie it's not fun to change all of your limitations are you choosing? And everything that is, times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Whoa.
This just got me. Like, not fun to change that it's not fun to change the limitations, and then we keep them and keep them and keep them, instead of making this choice of something different and seeing that it can be easy. Wow, it's so much things are based on working hard and achieving it with effort.
Well, you're in Austria. You have to work hard. And you have to. What's the other thing that Gary is always stirring Austrians about that it's that Vienna is the place of judgment or something? Yeah. So you have to. No, I'm kidding.
And then the other ways also, one people are like having this place of really working hard and having a lot of effort to get somewhere, and others are a lot of pretending. They have a job where they don't do anything the whole day, but they just do it because in their point of view, it's an easy way to create money. But it's like also really exhausting to sit there and have the time pass that, and at the end of the day, you can go home, didn't create anything, but some amount of money lands on your bank account. And I had this on a time when I was younger. Like, I was like, okay, cool. So what an easy life to just hang around and receive some money at the end of the day. But it wasn't mine. I can see it now. It was just like, oh, cool. How easy can it be? And then on one point it gets also boring, or my creativity is not really, asked there. Like there's nothing that would empower me or expand my life in any way.
Well, it's also, like you said, it's the pretense. It's like, I mean, how many people have decided that that's what makes them happy, is getting money in their bank account? I mean, I like money. I've learned to like money. I've learned to have money. I've learned to be grateful for it, because I used to refuse it dynamically. And now I've learned to actually have it, and I enjoy it a lot. And yet money's not what makes me happy. So what you're describing, it's like how many people live in the lie that if they just go to work, off to work I go, and it's like boring. But that's the joy, is that money shows up in your bank account. It's like, if that's you and you're listening, it's like, what if it was time to change something up? Like, what if we truly had so many other possibilities available? And you need to start asking questions and ask. It's like, whose lies are you living by? I mean, I remember, Doris, once when I lived in Sydney, Australia, years ago, and I was working at the markets, and I'd work, Saturday market. On Saturday, I'd work at a place called Glebe Markets. Sunday, I'd work at Bondi Beach Markets. And I had this stock that I'd bring in from India, Nepal, and Thailand and Tibet, and I would sell it there. And I'd make some really good money. And so many people used to say to me, when are you going to get a real job? And I was like, a real job. So you go to work Monday to Friday in the corporate world. You don't like it very much. I earn way more money than you, but you've got a real job and I don't. And it was like, wow, but I wasn't conforming to anybody else's reality. So it was so different. People couldn't put me into a box. So how many of you out there are trying to fit into somebody else's box and somebody else's lies? And where are you in the computation? Everything that is times a godzillion. What if it was time to change it up? Destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad. Pock and parona in shorts, boys and beyonds.
And this is fantastic. Where we want to make it right for other people. And then, but also, people have points of view where they have never asked you a question. They were never really interested in you, asked you a question, and their points of view just come from wherever they come. I had recently a family member who never asked me what I'm doing. And we drove in a car for 2 hours, and then he would ask me, so what is it, what you're doing? Because he started to judge me. And I said, wow, where do you have this? Like, do you know what I'm doing? And he's like, so tell me what are you doing? And then I told him that I do a lot around business. And then he started laughing. And I'm like, oh, wow. And I could also see, the first time I could see, I would go in to explain myself, where we want to defend ourselves. And I was like,
yeah.
And it was really seeing it showing up and coming up. And I was like, okay, what else could I do here? What is one thing that I could do different? And I have a lot of articles out there as well. And then I said, I have amazing articles around the world. And then he shut up and was like, really? And I'm like, yes. And he said, so send it to me. But I never sent it to him because he's not really interested. But what I wanted to say is, like, a lot of people just judge you for something that they don't have any clue about it, only what's going on in their world, or where you would somehow fit in their world, or they make you smaller because they don't get you. And it showed me, yeah.
Do you know what? I've got an idea, Doris.
What?
You need to get filthy rich.
That is so true.
That's what you need to do. Because then you'll have nowhere to go with it.
Totally. And he started also to tell me how much money he's making, and this is the point, he just got it. And I'm like, wow, how amazing is this? And the invitation of getting totally rich, because then people, their judgments fall, how do you say this? They fall down.
No, they don't fall down. They just they can't fit you into a category anymore. They don't necessarily fall down when you make more money. They're different judgments. But hey, you're rich. Hashtag not poor. Oh yeah, that's another t-shirt that you can also buy on happinessisjustachoice.com if you like. Hashtag not poor.
I will get this one.
It's really good. I actually went for a hike the other day and I had it on. And I knew I had it on, but I wasn't really thinking about it that much. And I probably like walked past about 70 people on this hike in Noosa. And I'm not kidding, Doris, there was like 1% of the people who looked at me and had this little smirk on their face, like, oh, that sounds like fun, hashtag not poor. And I would say the majority of people looked at me with some sort of disgust. And it was interesting because the area I'm in Noosa, it's not as though people are poor. So I don't know that there was people there who would have had money, but also not poor is a state of mind. You can have $10 in the bank account and wear a T-shirt saying hashtag not poor. It doesn't mean you have to have $10 million in the bank account. It's just, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Oh yeah, I want to be hashtag not poor. No matter how much money I have or don't have, I'm hashtag not poor. Like, what if that's what you could be? So it was so interesting, though, to see how many people were not willing to receive it, not even willing to smile. Like, they'd literally look away. They wouldn't even look at me, as though it was like, oh, that's crude. I was like, all right, whatever. I'll receive the judgments. I'll just make more money. How does it get any better than that?
I just got a really big smile on my face and my whole body is smiling. So this is where...
So Doris, is there anything else you want to add to this and talk to the listeners about, etc.? Any other tool, any other question, anything else you want to add before we...
What just sticks out to me from the manual is, like, because it's bold, is anything that is not true for you is a lie. And you cannot change lies. So it's really cool to ask questions. You know, if you look at things or you know, ask questions about something, it doesn't change. You can always ask, what's the lie here? If I would be willing to be present with it, what would really change? And this helps me a lot, you know. Mm-hmm. And also, if you so it's. Sometimes I'm calling a friend or someone that also is in question and would ask, please, can you help me? But if you're alone as well, it's like how would you say this? If there's something turning and turning and turning, but you don't get out of it or it doesn't change, then this might be an indication that there's a lie somewhere. And you want to start asking, what's the lie here? That if I would allow myself to be present with and acknowledge it, that would change it.
Cool. And one of the things I just want to add to that too is it's not so much about finding out who's lying or what the lie is. It's acknowledging that there is a lie, so because you acknowledge the energy of it and you can move on. So it's not like you have to go, who lied, and bring everyone into a room and question them and be like, it was you. You know, it's not like that. It's just because if you start to feel a little weird, or if you start to get, one of the things that I notice is when I get cranky. When I get cranky or a bit angry and I'm like, oh, okay, what's the lie here? There's a lie going on, because you can perceive the energy of it, and you are way smarter than what you've been willing to acknowledge of yourselves. So if you do perceive something like that, acknowledge the energy, and like Doris said, it's like be present with it and pock and pot everything that is and ask, okay, so what do I know here? What am I actually aware of? Because you are way more aware than what you're willing to acknowledge.
And thank you for that, because this is for me the beauty of business done different, and the tools, you don't need to figure it out. You don't need to think it through, and this makes it easy, right? This is the thing of like, you don't need to work hard. And I love that we talk so much about the energetics, you know, love things, also, you know, how you structure a business and all the to-do things. And I love the energetics and to talk about what do I know here and what energy is up. Yeah.
Well, we don't have to be frantic. We don't have to, you know, get in a frenzy about something. It's only going to create havoc. It's like you said, energetically, you're aware. Like energetically, if you look at it, everyone out there, it's like when you walk into a room, are you aware of the energy in the room? Are you aware if people are happy, if they're sad, if there's, you know, an anxious sort of energy going on? It's like you're aware of it. So then what can you be to change it? And everything that doesn't allow you to acknowledge that, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So Doris, thank you so much for joining me again on this podcast. You are absolutely fabulous. And I wish you way too much fun in your upcoming classes. And you can find Doris on accessjoyofbusiness.com. You can also find her on accessconsciousness.com website. And you can check out her articles because she's got articles. We know that. Her cousin might not, but you can check them out. So anywhere else that you want to mention that people can find you?
Oh, I have my new page, and my webpage is up, and it's like dorisschachenhofer.com with my little bit complicated name. And,
that's okay. We'll be spelling your name in the podcast, so they'll get it. Yeah.
And
yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Doris. You are absolutely wonderful.
Thanks.
How does it get any better than this? Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.